Hello and welcome back to the 10-Minute Drill, the Chicago Bears' brand new preview show, as me and Jeff Berkes are going to take you through the Bears' next matchup, in this case, a Week 3 contest between them and the Houston Texans. Jeff, initial thoughts about the game before we dive in?
Lovie Smith returns to Soldier Field. Exciting times, and he's coming back to Soldier Field with a coach that has some connections to his system. So very interesting to see what happens here philosophically.
When you take a look at the fact that Lovie Smith and Rod Marinelli basically created the defense that now Lovie has popularized, and Marinelli passed things down to Flus, who was his protege, Matt Eberflus, the Bears' current head coach, like you said, there's almost some reality TV style drama here as this coaching matchup continues, and honestly, I'm excited. You ready to do the 10-minute drill?
Absolutely, Robert. I think we should get going, put 10 minutes on the clock.
We got to put 10 minutes on the clock, and Jeff, we got to be pretty frosty this time too, because we have now missed it 2 weeks in a row, though we were better last week.
Yeah, we just need reps. That's all it is. It comes down to reps.
Put 10 minutes on the clock. Let's go ahead and get things started. Because the Chicago Bears are taking on the Houston Texans in Soldier Field this week. And when the Bears have the ball, things are going to be incredibly interesting to see what they do offensively. Because, Jeff, they're looking in a mirror. Lovie Smith and Matt Eberflus's defense aren't exactly the same, but Houston's defensive line, much like Chicago's, is struggling. And that means that what's historically a cover 2 defense has now become a cover 1, cover 3 defense as the Texans roll a safety down to play in the box, as well as 3 linebackers in what you'd call the base package. It's going to be very interesting to see what happens here, because on first down, they go all out on the run game, especially against condensed sets like what they saw against Denver. So if the Bears can move the ball on the ground, I know Bears fans won't be excited about it. It won't surprise me if they just keep running the ball. But given how hard Houston is committed to stopping the run lately, it does make me wonder if play action, or dare I say it, a getsy quick game that we have yet to see, might be in the cards. But either way, the Texans defense is definitely vulnerable, and the Bears offense should have, we would hope, a better day than they've had in the last 2 weeks. But what are the stats saying?
Robert, a lot of times I like to focus on the opponent stat. This week I'm going to give you a Bears stat. It's 76.5. That is the total passing yardage per game for the Chicago Bears so far this season. It's a laughably low number. That number takes away the amount of yards lost on a sack, so that's where some of those lost yardage is coming from. But a monsoon game and a very poor passing game in week 2 gives a number that is at the bottom of the league. That's 32nd. It's a very laughable number. It will not last there very long. The 31st ranked team is more than double that number, the New York Giants, at 159. So the Bears have an opportunity to get that number up and rise in the rankings because they're playing an opponent that isn't quite as tough as their first 2.
Yeah, Jeff, there's not a lot good to speak of when it comes to raw totals with the Bears passing game, but I tend to think that that's been discussed just about to death. When you do look at this game, what matchup are you keeping your eye on?
Robert, I'm really interested in Darnell Mooney against the rookie Derek Stingley Jr. Very talented rookie corner. We're going to see if Darnell Mooney can get out of this slumber that he's been in the first 2 weeks. I know I'm doubling down on Darnell Mooney watch, but it's time for him to break out. It's time for Justin Fields to target him, maybe even deliberately and to the point where it's a little bit too much, just to get him out of this slumber and see what can happen here. You have this rookie corner. He is talented. You've seen opposing quarterbacks target Kyler Gordon on the Bears defense because he's a rookie. Corner's an incredibly difficult position to learn. I want to see the Bears target Stingley, and I want them to take advantage of Darnell Mooney's abilities in this one.
It makes sense, and like you're saying, we've got to hope that the Mooney train starts rolling eventually. Now, I wanted Jeff to pick Justin Fields here because Justin Fields will be going up against a defense that you would certainly hope is going to be relatively familiar given what he spent all training camp getting warmed up against in practice. But I have to mention David Montgomery, who had a fabulous game last week against the Houston linebackers. And I can't pick one linebacker because they're going to continue to shift, but based on the film I watched in the Denver-Houston game, the Bears are going to get their running back matched up against at least one linebacker or nickel corner consistently. So if David Montgomery can break a tackle, if he can consistently put somebody out of their spot, he should have another healthy game, especially if the Bears continue their especially if the Bears continue to run on second down at an almost ridiculous rate. But maybe they'll get the ball in the air this time. But as we know, Jeff, the Bears offense isn't going to be the only part of the team that's going to be playing. We need to talk about what happens when Houston has the ball and the Bears defense is on the field. And actually, this is also going to be pretty similar. I can't say for certain that Pep Hamilton brought over a very Getsy-like offense to Houston, but they're doing a lot of the same RPO looks out of condensed sets, play action passing, and creative run work that the Bears have actually recently implemented. Truly, this game is as if somehow you have evened the teams a bit. And the problem here is going to be whether the Bears can do any better against the run that they did against Green Bay. Not only did they give up well over 5 yards per carry, but you consistently saw Roquan Smith, Nick Morrow, and even Kyler Gordon biting on play action fakes with more than one step. If Houston's run game gives them trouble, just like the Packers did, they may be in for another long one. But Davis Mills will give this Bears defense chances because Mills is so focused on playing on time right now that he's throwing into some, let's just say they're wild windows, Jeff. So if he can push the ball into coverage, Eddie Jackson, Jaquan Brisker, and the rest of the defensive backs may have their chances for yet another takeaway, but we're just going to have to wait and see. What are the stats telling you?
My number this week, Robert, actually conflicts with what you just said because the Houston Texans have taken care of the ball quite well so far. So my stat of the week this week is 1. They've only given the ball away once so far this year, which has kept them in games that they were otherwise supposed to lose or lose big. They tied their first game and they played the Denver Broncos tough in Denver in September, which is a very hard thing to do. It's because they are taking care of the ball that you would expect that from a Lovie Smith team. They are hitting that expectation and taking care of the ball. Davis Mills has not been giving the ball away like you might expect. He has been careful with the football. So if the Bears want to be able to be the better team here, they're going to have to change that particular trend from Houston's offense.
You've got me interested now because something's got to give, JB. I saw way too many pass deflections and tight window throws not to just double down on what I said, but like you're saying, they weren't interceptions, they were balls tipped away. So I'm interested to see what the Bears do, and frankly, if Davis looks comfortable against a defense that's also going to be similar to his. It's a benefit for both quarterbacks here. When you look at the matchups, what sticks out to you?
Robert, to me, I really like to look at the best on best matchups if they're available. And so this week, it's Robert Quinn rushing against Laramie Tunsil. They're very good left tackle. Quinn has already picked up a sack this year. He's looked good. He's going to go against one of the better tackles here. I want to see those reps. They're very fun when you get a really good pass rusher against a really good tackle. So I am focusing in on that. I think if the Bears want to be able to take advantage of Davis Mills, they can force bad throws with a good pass rush, but they can also force some strip sacks from their defensive ends, pass rushing. Quinn is a major part of that.
Quinn is a major part of that, but Jeff, they're not going to get to a passing down without first stopping the run, and that's why my matchup is Jaquan Brisker versus the Texans running attack, because he's going to have to shed blockers, he's going to have to make plays on the running back as the de facto 8th man in the box against a Bears team that might struggle to stop the run. I think Brisker's going to need to be the difference on first and certainly second down as the Bears try to create those passing down scenarios for Robert Quinn and the rest of the edge rushers. But before Sunday's action, make sure that you could potentially be a winner too as you take the code on our board and get into some prop betting action. Jeff, what's looking interesting this week?
Robert, one of the prop bets that I like a lot right now is Bears sacks over under 2. I think that the Bears can get over that mark. It's always fun to bet the over anyway, but to me, the Bears pass rush is one of the strengths of this team early on in this season. I think 2 sacks is a low mark. A lot of the individual players are able to get 2 sacks on their own if they get hot. So to me, I'm going to take the over on Bears sacks 2 this week.
Now, Jeff, I have a way for Bears fans to cure the Bears passing woes right now. If you go online and you bet Darnell Mooney under 4 receptions and 43.5 yards, because obviously he's nowhere near that on the season right now, I guarantee you he'll have a big game and they'll go ahead and take your money. But in all seriousness, I think that David Montgomery is going to have another nice game on his hands. He proved himself as a runner, and more importantly, the Bears offensive line proved themselves against a superior Packers defensive line, so I see no reason that 63.5 yards can't be overcome by the Bears' primary running back. quarterback. He's nasty in the second level, and this is going to be yet another game where if the Bears can continue to pull guards well, Tevin Jenkins can grade the road and pave the way, Montgomery should have a healthy 75 to 80 yards in his pocket, with Khalil Herbert adding a few as well. I'd take the over on number 32. Anything else look interesting to you?
Robert, I really like the touchdown bet with David Montgomery this week. You can get it through the air. You can get it on the ground. You can even get it if he throws a halfback toss. He just has to score a touchdown and you win that bet. I like that. I feel like Monty did not get in the end zone last week after that ridiculously good game of 122 yards. I think they're going to try to find a way to get him in the end zone this week. I like that bet.
Yeah, I agree. Obviously, if Montgomery has a great game, he's probably going to get in the end zone. But either way, to any of you Bears fans out there, if you're into this kind of thing, jump on and support the channel. Use our promo code. It helps a lot. And that's about going to do it for the 10-minute drill. Did we make our time? Yes, it looks like we did. Jeff, we nailed it. First 10-minute drill of the season successful.
I'm not surprised. We just needed the reps.
Now, Jeff, obviously this is a big game in terms of the standings, and there's some clear worry when it comes to Bears fans because a loss in Lambeau will shake the confidence of just about anybody in Navy and Orange. Where are you at on how important this game is for Justin Fields and the rest of the team?
I don't think win-losses are important at any game this year, so I'm not going to get wrapped up in that. I do think that you want to see some progress. This is a team that's played up to the level of their competition in the first two games. They've played pretty well, and so they're not going to be a pushover by any stretch of the imagination. But if you see some progress, if you see some good quality things, like you did see some good quality things in Green Bay, it was a little tougher to find and get over the fact that it was a little bit of an embarrassment. But if they can build off of the things that they already showed were good and clean up some of the things that were pretty rough against good teams, that's the kind of progress you want to see. I'd like to see them win the game because I'm always going to cheer for them to win the game, but I'm not going to worry about the outcome as much as the process.
I can't help but think the same thing, Jeff. For as much as plenty of people did enter this season saying, hey, wins and losses aren't important, it's about development, truly it seems like losing to the Packers in pretty embarrassing fashion kicked the hornet's nest on a lot of people. But we're still talking about a second-year quarterback. We're talking about a quarterback in his 13th start, his third in a brand new offense after just learning a new offense last year. I get it. It all sounds like excuses in the minds of some, but let's take a look at what Jalen Hurts and Tua Tagovailoa did this last week. They're in year 3 and in their third year, they're clearly taking a pretty significant step forward. These things take time. And Jeff, I understand any Bears fan that after 2018 and all of the waiting they've done, that people are just frustrated at the state of the franchise, but I can't help thinking that last year's mistakes have no bearing on this regime's progress. So I want to see them take a step forward without necessarily setting any benchmarks for them. And as long as they can do that, whether they lose by 4 in a close game or whether they end up blowout winning, there's probably going to be some good to draw from this game and something to build on.
And we'll be here to talk about it.
Absolutely. And that's going to do it for the 10-minute drill. Make sure you tune in with Jeff to the Gambler's Den on Sunday morning, where he and Ross Reed are breaking down the best of the betting world with the best information possible. But until then, Bears fans, bear down, and thanks so much for bearing with us.